Good morning, everybody. How are you today? I hope you're well. It's a beautifully sunny day here today. It's a little bit warm. Hopefully the snow's finally going to start melting. I'm looking forward to the spring. All right, today I want to talk to you for 5 minutes about the tie. So, okay, here we go. A tie. Why do I wear a tie? Well, basically I wear a tie because everyone else wears one. I've had to wear a tie every day of the week since I was 7 years old, which means I've worn a tie now for a total of 33 years, 5 or 6 days a week. Okay, so why do we wear a tie? Well, the wearing of a piece of cloth around your neck basically started in Roman days. The Roman legionnaires, the Roman soldiers, they used to wear a coloured piece of cloth around their neck to differentiate the unit they were in. Of course, an army is broken up into smaller and smaller groups, and to tell which group you were in, the soldiers used to wear a coloured piece of cloth. That was so in a battle you could tell who your friends were, and if you got divided you could find your own group pretty easily. That continued. Basically, the modern tie, though, comes from the 30 Years' War, which was from 1618 until 1648. Don't have much time to talk about that, but it was basically a European war, which was Protestant countries versus Catholic countries. It was a hugely destructive war. 8 million people died altogether from the war, and also from famine and from disease. It was a hugely destructive war. But anyway, during that war, Croatian mercenaries in French service used to wear a small knotted neckerchief around their neck, very small, thin, coloured piece of cloth. Now, this is nothing special. Soldiers have been doing this for millennia. Of course, though, in France, people like fashion, and Parisians liked this idea, and it started to take off. Fashion can grow and it can become popular, but to really make a fashion stick, you need a famous figurehead to take this fashion on. And that figurehead was King Louis XIV, who, even though he was only 7 years old, a boy king, he started wearing a neckerchief, basically. And that's where it came from. The name cravat, ties are sometimes called cravats, that came from, in Croatian, Croat people are called, I don't know how to pronounce this, Hrvati, and in French they're called Croats. And those two words mixed, and you got cravat. After that, of course, the French like design, they like fashion, and these ties started to get crazier and crazier and frillier and more intricate, until sometimes it would take hours to tie the actual tie itself, and you had to go to a professional tie tyer to put the tie on. So, very complex ties. Now, that fashion would have continued if it hadn't been for the Industrial Revolution. In the Industrial Revolution, people were now working for a full day, from the morning until the evening. They didn't have time to tie a complex tie. And they needed a tie that would last all day, would be easy, would be comfortable, and wouldn't come undone. So that was when the modern tie was basically designed, the 1770s and thereon. Up until about 1926, it was all handmade. In 1926, somebody perfected the way of tying, a way of making a tie. It's basically made from 3 or 2 pieces of cloth that are sewn together, and there is a lining inside. And the lining was actually stitched in. 1926, that was all designed. After World War II, ties were very short, much shorter than today's ties, about this long. They were also very big and very colourful. That was kind of a rebellion towards the war. During the war, soldiers were forced to wear the same uniform. So after the war, they wanted colourful ties. Ties were pretty short because back then, trousers were worn much higher, around about here, and most people wore waistcoats as well, so you didn't see the bottom of the tie. After waistcoats kind of died out and trousers sunk down to here, ties became longer. Today, the average tie length is about 140 centimetres, which is about the length of mine. These days ties are relatively thin and pretty much the same, although you do get some quite colourful ones. There are some problems associated with ties, of course. One of the biggest ones, of course, is if you work with machinery, if you work in an industrial job, it's very easy to get your tie caught in a machine. And some people every year are actually killed by their ties. They're killed by strangulation, asphyxiation. Another problem, of course, is doctors. Quite recently, it was realized that doctors' ties were spreading disease. Which part of your clothes do you wash the least? I wash all my clothes, of course, but I very rarely wash my ties. And this was the same with doctors. They realized that doctors' ties were actually spreading disease from one patient to another. So quite recently, ties have actually been made illegal in hospitals. You very rarely see a doctor wearing a tie these days. And of course, another problem is that it's enforced. You basically have to wear a tie. If you went to a job interview without a tie, people would think you were not being respectful. People would think you were not formal enough. So it's kind of an enforced rule. It's a socially enforced rule. Okay, and I've run out of time. I actually like wearing ties. I have quite a few ties. I wear them every day because I have to. Whoops. I ran out of time. Well, that was a lot of fun. I hope you understood me. Thank you for listening. If you want to read the script for that, if you click on the link below in the description down here, there's the script for this. There are some questions. There are some sample answers. You can practice your reading, your listening, of course. You can practice your writing. And if you say the answers out loud, you can practice your speaking as well. Keep practicing, keep learning. The more you learn, the better your English will get, of course. If you like this, click like. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe. That's somewhere over here. It looks like my head. Thank you. I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.